An explosion of research over the last 10 years has convinced scientists that dissimilar brain layout biases men and women toward differing abilities and skills.
We think that the superior language abilities that seem to characterize females, particularly in things like verbal fluency and so on, may be related to bilateral or both sides of the brain acquiring sophisticated language capability. Now, that works well when it comes time to simply test them on the basis of verbal skills. But when it comes time, for example, to test them on spatial abilities, there may be a price to be paid as a result of this bilateral development of the language ability. So that resources or cortical areas or brain areas that might have been used to develop spatial abilities are in fact used up. That is, they're already engaged with these additional verbal capacities.
Into the machine, and then we'll place the detector.
The University of Pennsylvania's neuroimaging unit has the most advanced brain scan technology.
All right, everything fine?
Tracking blood flow in the brain, they're exploring the very geography of the mental process. The gray to blue areas show low blood flow, areas of low brain activity. Yellow and red show researchers where the blood is flowing, where the mental action is. A woman's brain, it seems, is hardly ever off duty.
So the upper row are the men, the lower row are the women, and you just compare the baseline difference. The resting brains of women look as hot as the activated brain of men. You can see that the amount of activity in resting women is about as high as the amount of activity in thinking in men who are working on problems. Straightforwardly, it would mean that the rate of neural firing is higher and the rate of activity is greater. So presumably there is more going on in a resting female brain than in a resting male brain.
What happens when men and women apply their brains to the same task, like this verbal analogy test? The subject signals his choice with an electronic pointer. The top scan shows which part of the brain the men were using. The bottom shows the pattern of the female brain at work. Yet it's the identical task. In this test, the angle of the rods has to be estimated. Here, men's spatial ability should give them the advantage. Once again, men use a different part of their brain from women in approaching an identical problem. Now, Professor Gurr can begin to relate brain activity with brain ability.
So when we see a performance difference between men and women, and we see a difference in brain between men and women, it gives us something that we can use as a tool in order to understand brain behavior relationships.